All right, my name is Chris Niger, and I'm a senior CRM specialist with the Affiliated Resource Group. I have 7 years of implementing and customizing Microsoft Dynamics CRM. I started working with CRM 3.0 and have worked on every version up until CRM 2013. Affiliated Resource Group, we are a Microsoft partner. We have our gold certification for customer relationship management and also as a mid-market solution provider. Okay, enough about me. Let's get on to the agenda. I want to cover a few simple topics today. We want to start out by reviewing the business process flow in CRM and what you get out of the box and how it works, how reporting works for that business process flow, and the process flows that you get out of the box, and also where some of the gaps are regarding the business process flows. We have a simple example which we'll cover first, and then we have a complex example which will show where some of the gaps are and how we've helped to fill some of those gaps by creating a custom solution that we have installed. I'll be showing a number of screenshots from CRM today, and at the end of the session, if you're interested, we can actually go into the CRM solution itself and walk through the screens. We'll also provide time at the end for questions and answers. If you think of a question during the presentation today, feel free to type it up in the GoToWebinar window and submit it. And once we get to the question and answer portion, I'll call up those questions and we'll walk through them and answer them. So let's get into the basics around business process flow. So you can see on the screen here, I've taken a screenshot of the top of the opportunity field, and this is the business process flow that's available out of the box for the opportunity for CRM 2013. So it's a new feature, the business process flow. It was new in CRM 2011 for the opportunity and a few other entities. It's been greatly expanded in CRM 2013. We can use this business process flow for custom entities. We can span multiple entities, like going from a lead to an opportunity to a quote. It's a great feature. We implement it in most every CRM implementation that we do, and we find that our clients heavily rely on it for maintaining consistency in their business processes, specifically their sales processes. So what's the purpose of the business process flow? Well, it's really there to guide users through a specific business process so that the user will always know what is the next step to move forward. You can see that the business process has a number of stages indicated by the arrow-like labels at the top. The label that's highlighted in that gold color there, that's the label or the stage that we're on. I'm sorry, that's the label or stage that we're looking at. So you can look forward. You can click on develop and see what tasks are to be completed to move through the development stage, through the proposed stage, and through the close stage. You can always peek forward or peek backwards. The stage that we're currently on is indicated, I'm going to try to use this laser pointer tool here. It's indicated by the little blue circle icon with the flag in it. So that's the stage that we're currently on, and you can move forward in a stage by clicking the next stage button. So you can move from qualified to develop by clicking the next stage, and it'll move that flag. Once you're on develop, you can always look back at qualify and you can always look forward as well. So the fields that are under the stage are there as an indicator to the user that this is information that we would like to capture in this stage, information that we should have before we move to the next stage. Now, you don't see any red stars in any of these fields here, which means that none of these fields are required, but you do have the ability to make a field required, so that if I clicked next stage, it wouldn't let me go to develop until I had, say, a purchasing time frame specified. So these the fields that are under each stage are completely customizable. They can be the user has the ability to edit those fields and to make them required in the stage, even if they're not necessarily required on the form itself for the opportunity. It's really flexible, and it really gives a great framework for setting up a process that's to be followed in your organization. There's some other great features as well. You can have different business processes for different areas of your business. So let's say I'm in a group that sells a particular product line, and maybe my sales process is quite different from another group that sells another product line. Well, in CRM we can configure those two different business processes, and we can set it so that depending on the user in the system, their business process will default to the business process that's appropriate for them. So they don't have to think about switching the process to what they're to follow. They create a new opportunity, and they're taken right into the first step of their business process. So that's nice for the individuals that are using the system to process opportunities and other records. But we can also take those different business processes, define certain key stages in the process, and then report holistically. So we can roll up, qualify, and develop into a single reporting stage and report that in a pipeline. In that way, we can report on a business process, or we can report on several business processes and just see one standard view of the data. Okay. The other thing to note is that we have fields. You can see the fields under each stage here, and these fields change as you move from stage to stage, and these fields are also tied to the fields that are on the form. So we're not necessarily creating new fields that only live in the business process flow area. These are actually just replications of the fields that are on the form. So as you make changes here in the business process flow, the changes are replicated on the form itself and in the database. Okay. Next we have just a short list of pros and cons. And I think we covered most of the pros in the last slide. One thing I should note is that the pipeline reporting for opportunities is great out of the box, but it's difficult when we move to custom entities. It's also difficult when we move to business processes that span multiple entities. So I'll go through this as an example a little later on in the presentation here. Another pro is it's a very visual process, so it's very obvious what stage we're on. It's obvious what we need to do to move to the next stage. It really helps when you're bringing someone on board to have this in place to supplement any training that's done on the process. It's it helps. Notice that it helps bring people up to speed quicker than just having a process that they would follow from a Visio diagram or something like that. Okay. Another gap that the out-of-the-box functionality that we've noticed, an area for improvement, is that if we're working through a complex business process that spans multiple entities, the entities that begin the process, the stage doesn't get updated once I move from that entity. So if I have a lead in stage 1 and we move to an opportunity in stage 2, that lead never gets updated with the stage 2 indication. And that may not seem like a big deal, but we'll show an example here of how that can cause problems when we're going to do reporting and when we're going to build charts in CRM. And then I'll show you how we've come up with a solution to that problem that we've implemented inside CRM. So let's move along here and look at an example of what the simple business process flow looks like from a charting perspective. So on the top I have a screenshot from the top of the opportunity of the business process flow and its different stages. And then on the bottom of the slide here I have just a view of open opportunities, and then I've expanded the chart that's next to it, and I see a sales pipeline chart. And this is the out-of-the-box sales pipeline chart that matches up great with the out-of-the-box business process flow for opportunities. So you can see that we have a number of different opportunities in our list. We have 6 different opportunities there, all at some are at different stages in the chart, as you can see. So we have 1 at the qualify stage, 2 at the develop stage, and 2 at the propose stage, 1 that's unqualified at this point. So this is great. It shows you how far along your opportunities are, and if you were to open one of the opportunities and start to work on it, and then come back to the chart and refresh it, your data or the chart refreshes instantly. Your data is live, and the chart will reflect any changes that you've made. Also, if you click on one of the different pipeline stages, it will filter your list of opportunities here so that you're only seeing opportunities that are relevant to your selection. So say I clicked on the purple development stage there in the pipeline, then on the view we'd only see the opportunities that are in that develop stage. Another nice feature of the chart reporting with opportunities and with all entities is that you can change the view that represents the data that we're analyzing with the chart. So right now I'm looking at my open opportunities. These would be opportunities that I own, but I could open it up if I have the security permissions to all open opportunities or closed opportunities, and you could see where, for instance, if you looked at closed opportunities, you could see where did our opportunities fall off, at what stage, how far did we get them, did they die early in the process or late in the process. You could look at all your won opportunities and see how far they were actually driven in the business process flow before they were won. So this is a great feature of CRM. It works very well for the opportunity and for single entity business process flows. But we noticed some gaps when we started making things a little more complicated. So let's take a look at the next slide, which shows us a complex business process flow. So we can see here that we have a 5-stage business process flow in this instance, and this is the complex example. And let's see here. This business process flow spans multiple entities. So stage 1 is a lead, stage 2 is an opportunity, stage 3 is a quote, stage 4 is an order, and stage 5 actually goes back to the original opportunity. So this is definitely a more complicated example. We've named the stages very simply and very deliberately so that we know, so it's obvious kind of how the process flows, but you wouldn't have to necessarily see that you're actually moving to a quote in stage 3 or that you're moving into an opportunity in stage 2. CRM just handles that for you. So if you're used to the traditional method of accessing CRM where you create a lead, you convert that to an opportunity, and you might convert that to account and contact records, and then you might move that opportunity and create quotes under it. You know that it was a very manual process that involved a lot of clicking and opening of new windows, a lot of kind of searching and digging through data to get to the correct screen. Well, the business process flow has really cleaned that up in that you're just working from one screen. So if we're on the lead as a start here, we can see we're on the lead by that blue flag. Once we qualify that lead and we convert to an opportunity, the screen will just refresh and the flag will move to the stage 2 opportunity, and the fields that we see in the screen will refresh as well with that new data. So we never have to leave the screen when we're moving from step to step. It'll bring up that opportunity form and in a smooth transition. We found that it's very helpful. It reduces the number of clicking and opening and closing of windows, and it really just flattens the user experience and simplifies the process. So that is how the business process flow handles multiple entities in the system. It's how it flattens it out. And so yes, we built this process flow with multiple entities, and we want to highlight some of the areas for improvement, some of the areas that we've touched on with our solution. So what is the problem? So if we look at leads here and say we have a number of leads in the system, some of which have been driven through the process to the quote stage, some of which are still in the lead stage, some of which may have been disqualified. Well, out of the box with CRM, those lead records, the stage for those lead records for reporting purposes doesn't get updated when the stage moves forward. So if you went to look at all your leads and you wanted to report on what stage they were in, you wouldn't be able to see anything past the stage 1 in this case for simple reporting. And so that can be troublesome if you want to report on data that's contained in the lead, but you want to see what those lead records have generated as far as business that's further along in the pipeline. Another gap, just a simple gap here, is that it's from a charting perspective, you can't get the name of the stage that the entity is in, except for the opportunity. The opportunity has a custom record called pipeline phase, a custom attribute that is, that you can use to get that name. But with all other entities and with custom entities, in a chart, you can't get the name of the stage. And so that's troublesome. These database identifiers are not user-friendly, and so we've solved that solution, or we solved that problem with our solution, and I'll walk through that as well. Okay, so let's hop over to the next slide here and just show how we fixed that. Here's another example with all leads showing here, and we can see that we now can see what the stage is with its appropriate name, and we can see where the leads are in that pipeline. So we now have the visibility of kind of where our leads have gone in the process. We just have a custom chart here. It's very similar to the original sales pipeline. We just put our name on it just to differentiate it in this solution. And so yeah, we're able to resolve that. And we also are able to update that lead record with the stage when the process moves forward. So when you get to that quote phase, the lead record gets updated to the appropriate stage for reporting purposes. So let's dive into this a little bit deeper and show some of the data elements that make up the solution and how they're helpful for reporting in other ways. So we're going to walk through the first 3 stages of the business process, and as we have seen, stage 1 in this process is the lead stage. And what we've done here is for each entity that is a part of this process, we've added just a simple subgrid on the form, and we put it in the upper right-hand corner so it's easy to see for the demo. But as you know, it can be placed anywhere on the form. And what happens here is that a new record is going to get created every time the stage changes. And that kind of serves as an audit trail for the record through the system. So we've captured just some very basic information about the history of the record in this first phase of the solution that we built. We captured when the record entered the stage, and then how many hours was it in the stage before it moved to the next stage. So in this example, we're in the first stage of the process. We don't see an hours indicator at this point because that's our current stage, but we will see a record of how long we were in the first stage once we move to the second stage. So let me go to the next slide. And when we go to the next slide, you'll see that we're actually moving to the opportunity stage. And that stage 1 went away, and now we see stage 2 opportunity. Well, that's because we're on the next entity in the process. So I'll show that as we walk through the process and then go back to the lead, we'll see the audit trail of the stages that the lead was a part of. Since this is the first stage for the opportunity, we just see one record here. Okay, here we are at the third stage. The quote, another new entity, so we see stage 3 quote as the current stage with no hours to work. Or I'm sorry, no hours recorded at this point. But if we click back to stage 1 lead, if we peek back prior to prior stages in the business process, we can see that that the lead has gone through a number of stages, and we can see how long the lead was on each one of those stages. So here's the record. It's in descending order, and you can see we started in stage 1. We were there for 0.03 hours. Then we were in stage 2 for 0.03 hours, and then now we are on stage 3, which is the quoting stage. So this is helpful when you're looking at the individual records, just to see where the record has been, where it may have gotten hung up in the process, or where you're spending a lot of time in the business process, in the business cycle. There might be an opportunity there to speed things up, or you might just realize it's a fact of your business process that some parts will take longer than others, but helpful to see on the record itself, on the individual records. But we believe it's even more helpful when you start to analyze that information across a large group of data. So let me move on to the next slide here and just show an example of what you can start to do when you have that type of audit information. So this is just a simple chart that we've put together that shows across all of our leads how many hours are our leads spending in each stage of the process. So this is one of those charts that operates alongside of a view in CRM, So you can run this for all your leads, or you can run it only for a subset of your leads, so you can see maybe how leads that are going through a certain business process, see how they're flowing, see maybe where they're getting stuck, and where you may want to try to accelerate things. We're sure there's many other good data that we can capture around that stage transition. We just focused on the hours to move and the basic audit information for our first phase, but I'm sure in talking to our clients we'll come up with other great pieces of information that are helpful from a reporting standpoint or from an operational standpoint. Okay, well, we've gone through the basic business process flow and reviewed how the out-of-the-box components work, and we reviewed our complex business process flow, and we showed where some of the gaps are that we can fill with our solution. And so we've covered all of our content. We can move on to questions, and I'm actually going to go one more slide and just put up our thank you slide with contact information. So feel free to reach out to Affiliated. We'd love to talk to you about this solution or any CRM solution or any CRM needs that you have. You can see links to our YouTube, LinkedIn, and Google pages, and feel free to follow up with us after the webinar. So thank you for joining. I'm going to go ahead and open up our question list here, see if we have any questions, and we don't at this time. So I will I'll go ahead and stay on the line for another for the rest of the time here, and if anyone has any questions, please just type them in, or you can raise your hand with the webinar feature, and I will unmute you, and you can go ahead and ask a question that way as well. But if you don't have any questions, feel free to exit the webinar, and thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, here's a question from Michelle. Do you find that most clients convert leads to contacts? Yes, we do. Most of our clients do turn leads into contacts. I like to think of a lead as a business card. It has information about the person and about the company that you're dealing with. And once you get into a certain point in the sales process, it just makes sense to separate that information into an opportunity, an account, and a contact for tracking purposes. The one advantage to converting to a contact is that those contact records then have the ability to sync to your Outlook, which is really nice, and then eventually to sync to your phone, depending on what phone you're using. And so a lot of times that lead list will be used to capture things like web leads, maybe someone that fills out a web form with some interest, and you follow up, and if there's really no interest there, you can disqualify it, but if there is interest, you can qualify the lead and turn it into a prospect account with a child contact record. You can also use it as a place for a list. So if you would buy a list or receive a list from a trade show, you can bring that data in as leads. You're not really junking up your contact system. You're keeping it as leads, and you're only converting those leads that you qualify into contacts. So definitely have seen value in differentiating leads and contacts in the system and only converting the leads over to contacts at the right point in the process. So thank you for your question.